7 ways to invest in real estate without buying a property. Some people want to invest in this amazing asset class of real estate, but don't want to own any real estate themselves. Or maybe you just want to diversify into other ways of investing with real estate in addition to rentals or flips. So I'm going to show you 7 different ways that I think are the very best to do that. Number 1, we're going to talk about our REITs. What are REITs? So a REIT is a place where money is pooled together. The REIT itself does the heavy lifting. Individuals put money into this. They get some of the reward for the upside. They get some of the rent rewards, some of the appreciation, and also some of the write-offs. That's called REIT, R-E-I-T, something you can check out that you can own it without owning real estate. Second one, this is one you've probably never heard of, and this is called master leasing. Okay, so stick with me on this. You can go to people that have properties for rent and you can rent the property from them and get the right to rent the property out to someone else. Okay, let me show you how this works. Let's just jump over here to the whiteboard. Okay, so here's the deal. Let's say that Joe owns this house and Joe wants $700 a month in rent. Okay, so you put your smiley face right here. You go to Joe and say, hey, Joe, I'll give you $700 a month of rent. Or you could even say, Joe, I'll give you $600 or $500 or something, but I'll take care of the carpet. I'll take care of paint. You have to take care of the systems. I'll take care of the look and feel to make it look good. The cosmetics is what I'll take care of. And you do that to negotiate a lower rental amount. Or you say, hey, I'll rent it for $700. But here's the deal. You say, Joe, there's one caveat here. I want the right to rent the property. I want to be able to re-rent the property without getting his approval in advance. Like I'm going to put in the agreement, I have the right to sublease this property or to lease out this property, okay? Then what happens is you put this property, there's a few different ways. You can do Airbnb, you can do VRBO. Now remember, if you're doing these, you are in the experience business, right? They want to show up and they want to have it look nice and all that type of stuff. So you've got to make sure it's clean, everything else, right? You've got to furnish it, but you can Airbnb, you can VRBO, and you can do it on a nightly basis. And maybe it's $100 a night that you're able to get for it, plus some cleaning fees. And let's say you've got it rented for 15 nights a year. Well, that's $1,500. You're paying $600. You pay $600 and you're cash flowing $900 minus the costs that you have, which are going to be furnishing it, cleaning, although usually tack on cleaning fees and those types of things. So that's one of the ways that you can actually do this is through a master lease. Now, the second way that we can do a master lease is we can actually do a long-term rental, right? So I can rent it from Joe. I can turn around and send it to someone long-term. And if I'm going to do that long-term, what I'm going to do with that is maybe I can rent it for $900 a month or $800 a month, and I can make $100. Joe's responsible for the repairs. I only do this if I'm going to get a better price, but I can say, hey, Joe, I'll rent it from this. Give me a deal. I'll rent it for 3 years from you. But I'm going to re-rent that property and I'm going to try and rent it for more, but I'll take care of that. And I'll be responsible for making sure the payment's paid every single month. So you are on the hook, right? You've got to make those payments to Joe every single month. So if you don't have your Airbnb, you're going to be on the hook to make these payments. Now, something that you can do is do this in an LLC and not sign with personal liability. So if there is something that goes wrong, you can use your LLC. Now that's a risk reward. The person may not want to do that. They may want you to sign individually, but you can propose that. I'm really a big fan of drafting by design and not by default. So how do I want this and what's going to work out the best for me? So master leasing is number 2 through Airbnb, VRBO, or even long-term. Now, number 3 way I want to talk about is property management. It's different in every state. Some state requires licensing, others don't, where you can actually manage property for other people. The great thing about this is you get an override on what they do. It's typically somewhere between 8 and 10%, and then you have a fee type basis. Let's jump over here to the whiteboard, okay? This is how property managers make money, okay? They make their money through fees, okay? That's just all there is to it. So they typically make 8 to 10% of whatever the rent is. Okay, so if you're collecting $10,000 a month in rent, let's just use 10%, you're making $1,000 a month every single month that there's places rented without owning the real estate, okay? You're making that every single month. Next, When the property is vacant and you find a new tenant, they charge anywhere from the first month. So let's say the monthly rent is $2,500. They're going to charge somewhere between $1,250 and $2,500 to end up bringing you a new tenant, finding a new tenant, screening the new tenant, doing that type of stuff. So they make money on that. The other thing they're going to do is they're going to charge for credit reports, and that type of thing. So they're going to have different fees associated with that. Now, some property management companies are going to hire they're going to have their own contractor, and they're going to pay that contractor, I don't know, $25 an hour or something. And then they're going to bill them out to you at $50 an hour. So they're making some money on what their contractor. Now that's a more sophisticated thing, but this is something that you could be considering to get into real estate without owning real estate. Okay, something to really think about. I do need to jump back though. When we talked about those master leases, one thing I recommend that you get if you do the master leasing is you get first right of refusal to purchase the property. And if you can make it even better by determining a purchase price in advance and you have the option to buy it or not to buy it, that is going to help you get appreciation as well. And you still don't even have to buy it. You could wholesale it to somebody else, which is the next one we are going to be talking about here, guys. We are going to be talking about wholesaling. What is wholesaling? Well, wholesaling is simply getting a property under contract and selling that contract to someone else. Now, there's 3 different ways to do this. We're going to whiteboard this out just real quickly. So you've got this house. Let's say you've got it under contract for $100,000, okay? And you have this piece of paper that says you can buy this house and you have to buy it by this date and this time. What you're doing is you're selling this piece of paper to somebody else. This is you, and then we've got Bill over here, and this is Bill, and Bill's like, I like that house. And you say, well, for $110,000, it can be yours. So then Bill says, okay, so then what I have Bill do is I have Bill pay me 10 grand, and then I have Bill go ahead and close. I assign the contract over to him, and he buys it from the seller. Okay, that's an assignment. Now, sometimes you have to close on the property, do a simultaneous, do a double close. There's some differences depending upon what state you're in, but the principle here is you're getting it under contract, selling it for more without ever owning the property. That's the concept of wholesaling, although in some states and in some places, you may want to take the property down with some hard money, and then you would go ahead and sell that property. So it just depends on where you're at, but the idea of wholesaling is an assignment, and that assignment is doing that without owning the property. Okay, next one I want to talk about is called limited partnerships. Most people don't understand these or are aware of these. Limited partnerships are basically a private equity where someone is going and finding a property. They're going to be getting a loan from the bank for 80% of the purchase, and 20% of the purchase, they typically raise that from investors. And they raise that from people that are called limited partners. The people that are doing this is called a general partner. They're the ones typically finding the property, getting the loan, coordinating the financing, in charge of the repairs, hiring the management team, those types of things. Now, general partners usually get paid for putting the deal together, and they usually get paid along the way. But limited partners are going to get some type of return. It's typically an interest rate, and it can be some appreciation. A lot of people like to do limited partnerships because it's an easy way to get some tax write-offs, especially if it's commercial type properties where they can do accelerated depreciation. Now, that's a great way and something you should be considering and thinking about. Next way is called lending. Lending money. You can lend money in first or second positions. You can do what's called gap financing, where you're lending the difference between what the hard money lender will give them and what they need. It's more of a high risk, high reward because you are in second position, but you can get a percentage of the profits. You can do a different type of structures where it's more beneficial to you. The other thing you can do is just lend money in a first position and become a hard money lender where you're actually lending money based upon the asset. In addition to that, you could simply buy notes that are already created where somebody's making payments, and you can just buy those notes. Sometimes you can even buy those notes at a discount. If you buy those notes at a discount, then your yield actually goes up. The last and final, number 7 way that you can make money in real estate without owning a property is called crowdfunding platforms. Okay, technically with this, you would actually own a small piece, but you can put up money, and well, crowdfunding, you can actually They could be buying properties or they could actually be lending. So it could go either way here on crowdfunding platforms. But you can put in, depending upon the crowdfunding, $50 or $1,000, and you can own 1/100% of one property, or a bunch of properties. Or you could be a lender and you could be lending 1/100% of that loan as well, or depending, it's a pro rata share of how much money is actually there. But crowdfunding platforms are something to be considering if you don't actually want to own the real estate for whatever reason that may be. Now, if your main concern is the cost of purchasing a property, then your best option is to use a 100% financing loan. If you find a great deal, which we can show you how to do, then we'll fund every penny of your deal. Visit our website, dohardmoney.com, or click on the link on this screen. Thanks a lot and have a very profitable day.